All right, hey there everybody. So we are continuing learning how to solve two-step equations. I'm actually going to go back to the previous video just to briefly mention that we got started here with our two-step equations. And on the other video, you learned about what to do if you see a constant by itself and then a coefficient with the variable. So on this page, we had constants and coefficients. So we subtracted or added. We just did the opposite to get rid of the constant. And then we divided both sides by the coefficient in our second step. And that was what I just said right here. We just did the opposite of the constant. And then we divided both sides by the coefficient. So we made our way through all of this. So this part should be done. And now we're ready to take a look at these new sets of problems. You can see I've obviously got all of the work shown already here for you. Please don't just be tempted to just copy down the work. Let me actually do my thing and walk you guys through how to solve these things, okay? So my first question here is, what do you guys see when you look at these equations? We see a constant and we see a denominator. That's what all of these things have in common right here. You've got 1, 2, 3 equations at the top. And what they all have in common is a number by itself and a number under the variable. So we have a constant and a denominator every single time. So let's start by focusing on this first problem. If the number all by itself is a 5, my very first step is going to be to minus 5 on both sides. When we do that, the 5 and the negative 5 cancel out over here, and I just bring down this x minus 2 in my work. Now on this side, we do a negative 2 minus 5, and we get a negative 7. So I'm highlighting right here. Whoops, let me get my highlighter. Sorry about that. In yellow, we have the negative 7. That's this answer right here. So what's left over was the x over 2 equals negative 7. Now, because we recognize that I have a denominator down here, anytime we see the division denominator, we do the opposite, which is to multiply on both sides. If the denominator is 2 and we multiply both sides by 2, this cancels out, and my negative 7 times 2 is where I get this negative 14, and that's my answer. So what we're saying, y'all, when we check, we're saying that if I plug in a negative 14 for x, if I divide that by 2 and then add 5, I should be at a negative 2. Negative 14 divided by 2 is the negative 7. When I add 5 to that, I am at negative 2. So I know I did everything right here. So our steps are basically still getting rid of the constant first, but then because we have a denominator, we're going to be multiplying on both sides. Okay? So for the next one, when you see a denominator and a plus 15, let's get the minus 15 on both sides. So that's going to cancel out over here. And 27 minus 15 is this 12. So I'm going to bring down, and I've got k over 3 equals 12. Now, since my denominator is 3, I'm just going to multiply both sides by that 3, which is what you see in my work. 3 divided by 3 cancels out, and k is all by itself. And 12 times 3 over here is a 36. So I got rid of the constant, then multiplied 12 by 3 to get my answer of 36. Now, of course, to check, we just do the 36 divided by 3, which is a 12, plus 15. It is my 27, so I know I'm good to go. So all this is saying is some number out there, when I divide it by 3, if I add 15, I should be at 27. And we solved and found that that number is a 36, because if we do 36 divided by 3, we get a 12. And if I add 15, I am at 27, which is what we're saying here. So now for the last one, highlighted here in yellow, remember you just drop your line so that you can focus on the side with the variable. With the variable, I see a denominator and a constant. Since I have a negative constant this time, I'm going to add 7 to both sides. That's all we do here, is we just add the 7 to both sides. Now negative 3 plus 7 is where I get this 4. And this cancels out, and I simply bring down the y over the negative 3. And because I see a denominator, which is a division thing, the opposite of dividing by negative 3 would be this times negative 3 right here. One thing I want to point out real quick is that I could show the times with this little multiplication symbol, or I could show the times with the parentheses. Because we have the variable x in our work now, I kind of try to avoid using the multiplication symbol like that, and I try to use parentheses as much as possible. But I also think that a lot of you recognize still seeing like multiplication like that. So that's why I have it here in my notes. So anyways, the negative 3 divided by the negative 3 cancels out. And now 4 times negative 3 is my negative 12. And we have solved for y. Now, of course, to check, we want to plug in this negative 12 for y. So we've got a negative 12 divided by a negative 3, which is a positive 4. And now we're going to take away 7. The constant comes last, so we're going to take away 7. We do get a negative 3, which is what we were expecting, so we know we're good to go. All right, now how is this problem here a little bit different? I'm going to focus now here on this blue highlighted problem. How is this blue highlighted problem different than everything you see up here in yellow? Well, the constant now comes first, okay? So the constant is the 11. We still have a denominator. And I'm going to talk to you guys right now in this video about this negative symbol. First, let me get rid of the 11. Okay, let's keep that part consistent. We've been getting rid of the number that's all by itself first. So since we have a positive 11, I'm going to subtract the 11 on both sides. Let me just at least get that part taken care of. 11 minus 11 cancels out. And then I still have this left over. 9 minus 11 is this negative 2. Okay? Now this thing right here, I'm actually going to get out a new page and ask you guys real quick, just think about what is 10 divided by 2? 10 divided by 2, you guys know is a 5. All right, cool. Now stick with me on this. If I were to have put a negative out front, that's like the negative 10 over 2, which now makes the answer a negative 5. So when you guys see a negative in front of a fraction like this, obviously the answer is negative. So if you want to put this negative with one of these two numbers, you could put it with either the top, or the negative could go down here with the bottom. And that means you still get the negative 5. But the moment you try to put the negative with both the top and the bottom, now you're going to get a positive answer. So the negative doesn't go with both of them. The negative could go either up here or down here. And I've been teaching long enough to know that this is going to be the recommended strategy. Anytime you see a negative out front, we want to treat it down here with the denominator. So now I'm going to go back into your packet and I'm going to focus on this thing that was right here. We had a minus x over 4. So when I'm writing that down here, I'm just going to put the negative down here with the denominator so I don't forget about it. And now this is our new problem. We have some number divided by a negative 4 equals a negative 2. Anytime we see a denominator, we multiply both sides by that denominator. So that's what you see me doing here with the negative 4. This cancels out, and this is all by itself now. And a negative 2 times a negative 4 is my positive 8. So let's just make sure, if you saw another one like this, let's just pretend, let's just say I had a 5 minus x over 3. And let's just say this answer is a 2. So if you guys saw this one, even though it's not in your notes, let's just practice what we would do. I see a denominator and a constant. So I'm going to get rid of the constant first. That part should hopefully be okay. 5 minus 5 is 0. And now this is what we were focusing on a second ago. We're going to put that negative down here with the denominator. Now over here, 2 minus 5 happens to be a negative 3. So now we're going to multiply both sides by my denominator, which is this negative 3 down here. So a negative 3 times negative 3 would be a positive 9. So the answer to this one would be a 9. And if we plug it in and see what 5 minus 9 over 3 is, well, 9 over 3 is 2, or sorry, 9 over 3 is 3. So you to do 5 minus 3, and we get the 2, so we know we're good to go. So this video is all about what to do if you see a constant and a denominator. The first step you take is to do the opposite of the constant. So if it's a positive, you subtract. If it's a negative constant, you add. So you're still getting rid of the constant first, and now you want to multiply both sides by the denominator. So I've got 3 practice problems here, and obviously it was just there a second ago in the video. What I'm going to do is say that if you want to pause the video to try these on your own, feel free to pause the video, and I've got the answers covered up so you can kind of just try it on your own. And then if you want to hit play, I can reveal the answers. If you don't want to pause the video, just keep watching. But if you want to pause, now's a good time to pause. All right, so here are the answers. I'm going to walk you through the work here. I see a denominator of -5 and a constant of -12. So the first thing I'm going to do is the opposite of the constant. So I see a -12. So the opposite is to add 12 to both sides. And -6 plus 12 is 6. This cancels out, and I have g over -5. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by that denominator, and I get a -30. All right, for this one, constant's a -8, so we add 8 to both sides. This cancels out, and I'm bringing down the r over 4. And -3 plus 8 is this +5. Now I see a denominator of 4, so I'm going to multiply by the 4, multiply by the 4. This cancels out, and r is 20. And think about it. If you do 20 divided by 4, that's a 5. And if you do 5 minus 8, you're at -3, so we're good. And this is one of the ones that has the minus in front of that fraction. But first, let's get rid of the 16 on both sides. This cancels out. And I just bring this down. But notice I put the negative down here in the denominator with my 2. 6 minus 16 is this -10. So now we have some number divided by -2 gives me -10. So we simply multiply on both sides by that -2 and it cancels out. And right here we can see we're going to get the +20. So the other video was what to do for 2 steps if you see a coefficient with your constant. This is still 2 steps, but we talked about what to do if you see a denominator and your constant. In case you forget, it's going to be right here. And that concludes the video. Thank you for watching.